Minecraft, widely considered the most modded game in history, next to Garry's Mod and Skyrim. What do these games have in common with each other? A framework for players and the creators to endlessly expand upon. Content can be added in most cases with 0 lines of new code. Items can be changed, values can be modified, integral features can be redone, all on a whim. It is also no surprise that these games happen to be some, if not the best-selling games in history with a continual player base. Skyrim retains an average of 25 to 50,000 active players on Steam alone. It's apparent people love creative outlets, especially in games they already enjoy. This also goes for the developers. Modding your own game is a great sign of a healthy foundation, but it is by no means the only sign, as some games just don't require it. But I say all games should be moddable, even if it's exclusively for the developer. When it comes to a foundational codebase, you will consistently hear the same terms. Expandable and modular. You may hear it so much that the meaning has become watered down. So what do these terms actually mean? How can you apply them? Firstly, expandable. This is pretty self-explanatory. Your game should be easy to expand upon. When you create a system, think about its future use cases and how much you actually want it to do. In my case, the player for my game has an interaction system. This lets the player harvest a forageable, meat from a corpse, pick up objects, and interact with the restaurant appliances. All of this runs in the same code using the same functions. An easy way to do this is to define a class or base for something. I have what's called an interactable. This means anything that extends from this class is able to be interacted with without any prior modifications or adjustments. It holds baseline functions that are intended to be overridden by whatever is extending it, in this case, the dial on the stovetop. These two scenes in the background are running an identical process for the player. One is able to harvest a forageable, another is able to interact with the stove dial. To ensure the systems of your game are safe, create a strong expandable foundation. When you design with one thing in mind despite knowing it will need expansion later, it's like building a house on mud instead of concrete. You'll have to go back over the foundation, add supports, tack together fixes, and end up with a mess of adjustments and additions. Start strong and coding later will be easy. Do not fall into the trap of overscope though. There is a very fine medium where an expandable codebase is where it needs to be. Think of a single system like interactions and only design for that. Do not make the interaction system handle visuals in the player's hand or handle individual use cases for each interaction. It needs to be contained expansion. If you begin to move away from the original design, it's a good sign that you need to create a new system. Secondly, modular. This means how many pieces of your game can be removed or added without anything breaking. For example, in Godot, you can get access to a very powerful thing called resources. Resources are, in my opinion, the best way to structure and store data. Instead of making an object and giving it constant values, you leave it up to a resource to define it. So take this corn forageable in my game. By looking at it and its values, you can see a couple of things. It's got mesh, name, weight, drop mount, filter, slot filter type, and other things. These are values that do not care about each other, but help define what the whole object is. This means I can change or remove anything here and the object will continue to function. This makes forageables in my game modular. They do not care how or when the data arrives, what's in the data, or who sent it. They just apply it to themselves. They are contained and essentially just a component. A forageable at its core is nothing. I can remove their spawning and the game will continue to function. They rely solely on values, making every forageable the same base, just variations in data. This makes my forageable system modular. I can add or remove as many pieces as I want and it continues to function. This also applies to whoever interacts with the forageable. A good modular system lets you define values however you want and continues to function when things are added or removed. The structure depends on your game, but it usually consists of making things components rather than whole blocks. For example, with my forageables, the mesh is a component. The interaction area is a component. Particles, weight, inventory filter are all just components. This also lets me reuse them on other objects as well. Modularity for your game is a great workflow. In most cases, the initial setup takes just as long as any other system, even hard-coded ones. The benefit though is you can add as much as you want. It takes me around 5 minutes to add a whole new forageable to the game, including the model. This is the same as a biome. If I have all the models ready for it, it will take about 10 to 15 minutes of just messing with data to add a completely new biome to my game. This doesn't end with code though. Art and audio also play a huge role. When creating games, try to avoid slapping your models and audio directly onto the object. If you already have the expandable modular data systems created, it's extremely easy to add audio and models to that as well. Modders will always try to change visuals, adjust models, maybe add new shaders or post-processing effects. So will you. Make it as easy and seamless as possible. What does this look like though? In Godot, you can export variables in the resource. Just like your other data, export the models and audio files as well. You can export the file path so you and modders can easily change the model at that path and it will update. Or you can just change the file path in the resource and it will use a different model. Now, when it comes to accessible modding, that's a different story. As a dev, you already have access to the engine and all your game files. Unless someone completely decompiles your game, they do not have that. This is almost exclusively for modders, but adding hook functions to your game will help with that. Hook functions are places in your codebase that listen for events, adjust other modules, and allow access to APIs you've created. They are there for other people to tap into and modify. This is why on many modded games, you will find core mods with the sole purpose of providing APIs to other modders. Start modding your own game.